Hey guys, this is miicrow here. I wanted to make a video for the small yet very loud remaining population of New World with the new Season 8 artifacts. There are a few in here that I think are interesting. To be honest, I think like 2 to 3 of these are really cool, and the rest are kind of boring to or really not usable due to the balancing of the game, but I kind of wanted to go through it and give some opinions on this because I know some people care about that. Um, First off, we got Old Crown, medium headwear. Main thing is this is kind of like the medium pants where it gives you a bunch of stats, but has a different aspect of it where it's also giving you a little bit of absorption here. Uh, the TLDR of this artifact is it's not actually like viable compared to featherweight at all. I did some like calculations in here just to compare the two, and it just did not work out. So if I put light crown on here, put featherweight on here, if we compare, like if we look at like light crown with 3% ABS, which would be 3% absorption, which is what it effectively does, and compare it to featherweight in terms of the how much absorption it will be. The light crown we're at 26%, right? To go to featherweight, take off this ABS, we're at 30%. So it's like effectively you're gonna be losing out on like you're gonna be taking more damage by running this. Like you're going from 26 to 30%, right? So I'm taking a pretty significant amount more damage. Like if you look at the other way, it's like I'm taking 15% more damage if I run this over featherweight. Like is that worth it? Like probably not. Um but it does give you a lot of stats, which I guess is a plus side. So maybe if you don't mind being kind of squishy, it's okay. But in terms of PvE, probably will be used somewhat. So it's kind of an interesting artifact. Just PvP, not really in consideration in my opinion, but some people I'm sure will try it. We got Vampiric Vestments, which is a light chest, which has an ability where hitting a target consumes 10 mana. If the mana is spent this way, that hit gains 10% lifesteal. If using a magic weapon, only abilities trigger the lifesteal while basic attacks restore 10 mana. I mean, this sounds cool, and I'm sure it's cool in some ways, but I look at this and I'm just like, there's no way I'm ever running this over featherweight. And for the really squishy builds, it's like there's no way I'm ever running this over nimble coat. And there's just like other artifacts that just give you more. Like thematically, they're not very interesting, but they're just like so good in terms of just raw power with zero downside that it like doesn't really make sense to even consider trying this. It would be cool if someone kind of figures out a way to make this work, but in any mode where you have a healer, I don't really see the point of like trying to make this work. To be honest, it is lifesteal, so the benefit there is like incoming healing effects were nerfed at one point in the last like season or two, and lifesteal was not. So you had a little bit of a benefit there, where lifesteal is a little bit more of a premium effect that gives you value. The main thing that will be the thing to look out for this is if this lifesteal doesn't work off abilities, which for magic looks like it doesn't work off abilities, then it's like almost useless. But if it does work off of like AoE attacks, then it's pretty good, and that's kind of where I'd leave that. We got Lich gloves, light hands. They have an ability that gives you empower, that gets lost upon doing a basic attack. So it's like you use abilities, you gain empower, you use a basic attack, and you lose it. This is honestly like one of the worst artifacts I've ever seen. You look at this and you compare it to Tumblr Feet Wrap, and it's like it's just wild how this was even printed. Like in order for this to be competitive with Tumblr Feet Wrap, this would have to be like 15% in power for 7 seconds and stacks up to 3 times, or like 20%, like something ridiculous like that. It's not even close to being viable. I've heard some people like that are really ranged heavy are kind of excited about this, and I'm honestly kind of lost why. Like I don't see, even like from a DPS perspective, why I would ever use this if I'm a ranged player compared to like Old Crown or ALP or like any of those like other like OG artifacts. To me, this is just completely and utterly useless and deserves like a redesign in my opinion, because it won't be used at all. We got Runic leaves, which are heavy feet. Activating a heart rune gives you 33% move speed for 7 seconds. Cool idea, so you can get out of dodge, kind of escape. They are heavy feet, so it's like not likely that you'll see these in medium. You're not going to be able to run these in light. I just don't see, like, in a world where you have the Keen Speed boots that drop from the worm, why you would consider running this in most situations. Like, it's a cool idea, and it definitely can be used to create space. I just don't see this, like, really competing quite with other artifacts. It is better than the other ones on this list, though. Like, it's probably closer to, like, CB tier rather than just straight F. But it's in my opinion, still, like, probably not good enough to be run. We are kind of in a keen speed meta, and like in certain modes, like in OPR specifically. So it could be somewhat viable for that. I'm just really not seeing it right now. We got Chaos, which is a blunderbuss. This is probably one of the two, I would say, really exciting artifacts that came out here, maybe three. What it does is if you use blast shot, you turn somebody into projectile and they go flying. And also just blast shot has a further knockback. I actually see this like getting a lot of value as like a utilitarian role in PvP just because of the 300% push distance. So like if I'm on point, it's an all-in. I could blast shot 10 people off the point, we guarantee a cap. Like that's like legit value in terms of large scale PvP. It's going to be fun no matter what, and honestly just a fun artifact. The thing that you'll notice is, like, going through this list, is that the artifacts that sound really fun and are really cool are the ones that they put on the test PvP server, like the one that was supposed to be full loot that kind of fell off. And they were on there in some form or another. Like, this was a Warhammer based ability, and now it's a blunderbuss based ability. So it's like a slightly different, but it's like they already tested this idea. People liked it, and they're like, okay, well, we'll put it into the live game. And all the other ones of these were basically just stat modifiers. And the stat modifier ones are like honestly really, really boring. And I wish they at least took some risks, because like for Vampiric vestments, it's like, okay, this sounds cool, and then you just like read it, and it's like, I don't really feel like I'm a vampire here. Like it seems pretty mid. But this one's actually going to be like a lot of fun. So just launching people, like, I don't know if it will actually be like good, but it will definitely be fun, and I think will definitely be tried out just because this is like the push distance is like ultimately pretty good value, and it will create a lot of really funny moments. We got Wit, which is a longsword that is basically just a PvP sword. It's kind of interesting. It's basically used light attacks on ability or on enemies with the sword. If you crit them, you gain like 15% base mitigation. What's the term? It's not. Yeah, no, it is base damage. So it's like kind of like Enchanted Ward, but 15% for 3 seconds only on you. A lot of PvE players just saw were like, oh my god, this artifact's so exciting. This is like gonna change the meta. And I look at it and I'm like, I don't understand how this is even like remotely viable. The first thing that comes to mind is if I'm PvEing and I'm a tank, I have aggro. If I have aggro, I'm not flanking. If I'm not flanking, a crit is not guaranteed. And if a crit is not guaranteed, now I have to build Keen as a tank, which just sounds weird. And it's not like Keenly Fortified is like remotely viable. So it's like, I don't understand what the idea is behind like a crit-based tank. But I guess that's the idea behind Wit. Like maybe you throw on like freaking mag gauntlets and just have a good time, but like there's just like no way that ever makes sense compared to like other artifacts. So I'm not really seeing it personally, but I wish the PvPers luck because they sound excited about it. PvP not viable at all for obvious reasons. Now we have the fun one that people probably care the most about with the video. We have Relentless, which is a tower shield that while you're in combat, your nearby allies gain 35% armor. This should be similar to the old artifact that existed, or not the old artifact, but the in the PvP server there was a one that gave 50% armor, and that tended to be like somewhere in the range of like 4 to 5 meters in terms of a radius. So like taking that as like a benchmark, that's basically what SNS Aura is like already, like the one where SNSs hold right click and everyone laughs at them, but they make everyone not die. So you're giving people 35% armor. 35% armor for a heavy player translates to a good amount of absorption, and I kind of can walk through it here actually with some of these graphs. So if I look at heavy with the tower shield, for example, that translates to absorbing like 40, like if we look at this, like before we're absorbing 48% of the damage, right? Say we have a 35% more. Now we're absorbing 55% of the damage. So it's like a pretty significant increase in terms of damage absorption / damage mitigation. It's not nearly as good as the SNS Aura itself, but it is nice on top of it. The first question that comes with this artifact, because you're reducing your armor by 20%, right? Like that's super significant because of the opportunity cost. If I'm an SNS tank, I am reducing my armor by effectively 40% because I can't run Void Dark Plate. Also means all the fortified base builds are effectively not usable, which just puts this artifact in a kind of a weird spot where it's like, I don't like, from a tank perspective, the like from a pure point tank perspective, I think a lot of people want to try this out, but the question you have to ask yourself is the reason why you would run this artifact over a traditional shield or like the wall or something like that is in a case where you are shielding and people die anyway, or in a case where your shield breaks and you want to try to keep other people alive. I think probably 80 to 90% of the time, this artifact will have no difference in terms of the damage mitigation compared to a typical tower shield, but there are times where it still will be useful, and I think this is a powerful enough ability because this goes to everyone that this will be run somewhere in medium and large scale. The point I'm making is I don't think that necessarily belongs with the tank that's in the middle of the crash when everything is like hitting the fan. I don't think you want your tank to have 40% less armor. I don't think it really works super well. The spot where I see this being like very viable is like for SNS players off the point per se. I could see it being used like, say I'm an SNS spear, like utilitarian, I'm gonna pull people in kind of player. Like I could definitely see this being used in that kind of slot, and it's like, okay, say I don't want this 20% armor reduction, then I could swap to my offhand or something along those lines and it's gone. Or I can just hold block with the shield. But like once my block is down, once my aura is down, like you really don't want to have the SNS out, or you're just going to be like nuking yourself. So this will be the TLDR of this is it will be tried. It is very viable, and I just don't think it's viable in the sense that where people will always slot it on point tanks just because of the opportunity cost. Now, while you are reducing your armor by effectively 40% because you're not going to be running the wall or Void Dark Plate, which approximately work out to the same sort of resistance, you do get 20% incoming healing increase, which excludes lifesteal and consumables. What this means is it adds to the same bucket that Sacred Ground does, which effectively means this is about a 10% increase to incoming healing. And overall, you'll be taking about 20% more damage as a tank compared to running this over Void Dark Plate, but you'll have about 10% increase to incoming healing, and you'll give a really big buff to your allies. So, like, I think there's two camps with this. It is you run every single person that you can with this, even though the ability likely won't stack, because if it did stack, it would be utterly broken. And you just hope that somebody is alive at some point to give it to other people. Or you run it on like selective individuals. The one that makes the most sense to me is the foil IG slot in the point roster. And that just goes to everybody, and they basically act as like another mini SNS, if you will. I think this will basically confirm that you need to have an SNS tank, like a pure SNS tank, and you need to have sort of an off tank with this. And the off tank spec will make the SNS tank basically unkillable. An SNS tank will make the off tank spec like relatively strong, but end of the day, this will be used. This will fundamentally change PvP in the sense that everybody will be significantly tankier. And I would expect a rise in an armor pen meta, which already kind of was the case, but what that basically means is people are going to run more spear. People are going to run the new perks that have armor penetration, as well as some of the old perks that have armor penetration. They're going to run the new gems that have armor penetration, and be like, you're really going to have to kind of build to counter this thing. It is noteworthy if you have reduced armor penetration isn't as good as you, so by running this, you make other people tankier and you aren't as susceptible to the armor penetration, but like that's not like really completely worth discussing. You're going to be taking a good amount more damage. The equivalent of like minus 20%, by the way, is basically like you're in heavy, right? Like I assume you're going to be in heavy using this tower shield. If you're in heavy using this tower shield, you effectively are going to be playing like a medium player without a tower shield, which is kind of like a bruiser, and it's honestly not that squishy, but it's squishy enough to where you probably don't want to be in the middle of a point when 20 deados are going off, because you're probably going to die. So it'll be interesting to see how this is used, but I don't see it being used everywhere all the time. I definitely will try it as a point tank, even though I'm saying that I don't think point tanks should use it, because I think it will be interesting. It will be kind of a fun thing to limit test. But at the end of the day, I imagine this being more of a slot for kind of off tanks, if you will, or like people that are not going to be in the main line of fire when everything is like collapsing in on itself in a war. And then in other modes like OPR, I see this being a hard meta for basically every role, because people already, like, you can't really kill tanks in OPR anyway. And the problem with tank is not that you die, but that your allies die, and this just kind of helps that problem be like get solved naturally. So I just see this being good in a lot of modes. War will be really interesting, but OPR will be probably just like you always run this. Like this artifact actually changes the game in so many ways. It's actually so cool, because it's like one of those concepts of like, hey, I'm taking my tankiness, I'm getting rid of it, I'm sacrificing it to make everyone else tanky. So you can make selective roles like super tanky. Like I could effectively, like if we look at featherweight here, and like say our featherweight player has, you know, significantly more armor now. They have 1.35%. Like we're getting to a point where we're starting to compare like a featherweight player not directly to a heavy player, but like, you know, they're within like 10% tankiness of like a heavy player or something like that. Well, 10% like not in terms of like a difference, but like in terms of absolutes. So like what, 37% versus 48. So like, you know, like you're still taking 30% more damage, but like you know, it's like you're within the realm of possibility of being a really tanky player with this, and it's just gonna kind of push builds in a different direction. It's not strippable too, which is pretty cool because it's a passive effect, so Void Gauntlet can't really do anything about it, and that's like one of the only armor effects that exists with the game. And like you think about this, and you think about this boosting like a player with Void Darkplate, like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have so many like super tanks kind of everywhere, and maybe people won't die. Like it's just going to be interesting, and like you'll obviously want to focus your heals on this person because they have the 20% increase incoming healing too, and they're obviously going to be susceptible to a lot of incoming damage. But this is just like a really interesting artifact overall, and I really like this design, and I wish more things were kind of designed like this, where there's like a very big benefit and something that you want to build around, but also like a very big trade-off at the same time. And it's one of the cooler slash probably top 3 designed artifacts in New World, in my opinion, and will be really interesting to see where this actually gets used. With that being said, let me know what your guys' thoughts are, and I will see you later.